You know how sometimes when you think about really getting good at something new or like properly understanding a big topic, it just feels like this huge mountain to
Right.
climb.
Oh, absolutely. Like it's going to take years and years.
Exactly. Especially with, say, learning a language. The default thought is always, oh, years of classes, tons of grammar. And honestly, that can feel pretty overwhelming if you just want to, get started and see some progress.
Right. It can stop you before you even begin. But that's why we got interested in this particular source today.
Yeah, so we've been looking into an episode from the SpeakUp Sessions English Podcast. It's got this pretty bold title, Speak English Fluently in 30 Days, Free Communication Skills Course.
30 days. It sounds fast, doesn't it? Almost, maybe too fast.
That's what I thought. It definitely catches your attention. But what drew us in wasn't necessarily the speed, but the focus of their approach.
Exactly. It suggests that getting to a point where you can communicate, clearly, confidently, might be less about just sheer time invested and more about how you actually practice.
So our mission today really is to dig into this podcast episode. We want to pull out the main ideas, the strategies they talk about, and just see what it suggests about maybe a more efficient path to feeling competent, whether that's language or, anything else you're trying to learn.
Not like instant expert level, but a smarter way to get going and build momentum.
Right. So let's start with this fluency myth they talk about. What's the core argument there?
Well, the big idea they push is that we need to sort of redefine what fluency even means. They argue it's not about having absolutely perfect grammar, like zero mistakes.
Okay.
And it's also not about knowing every single word in the dictionary, which is frankly impossible anyway.
Yeah, that feels like a relief already. Because I think that perfectionism, that's where a lot of us get stuck, right? We feel like we can't even try until we know everything.
Precisely. So, according to SpeakUp Sessions, fluency doesn't demand, say, a perfect native accent. That's not the goal. And it doesn't require memorizing endless vocabulary lists. Their definition is much more functional, I guess.
Functional how?
It's about being able to get your thoughts out clearly, confidently, and consistently. So it's really centered on effective communication. Can people understand you? Can you express what you mean?
Okay, I like that. It's like you don't need to be a Michelin star chef to make a decent, tasty meal for your friends.
Exactly. That's a great way to put it. You need the core skills to make something work, to communicate effectively. It shifts the goalpost, makes it feel more, achievable.
So if that's the goal, clear, confident communication, what does the podcast say are the key ways to build that? What are the main strategies?
They boil it down to three main things. First, daily speaking practice, like actually making the sounds, forming sentences.
Every day.
Second, getting into real conversations, maybe simple ones at first, but actual back and forth.
Right, not just textbook drills.
And third, building the right habits around learning. The mindset stuff, the consistency, it's very much about doing, not just passively studying.
Okay, doing, not just studying. And you mentioned they offer this free 30-day communication skills course. How does that actually work? What does a day look like in that course?
Yeah, the structure seems key. It's designed to be simple and repeatable. Every day there are 3 parts.
3 parts, okay.
1 is a specific speaking challenge for the day, something concrete to practice. 2 is a short listening activity. And they actually connect this to, what you're doing right now, listening to us talk, tuning your ear.
Ah, clever, okay.
And the third part is a little tip focused on habits or confidence, something to build that mental side. It creates this daily rhythm.
That sounds, much less intimidating than study for 3 hours. Could you, walk us through a sample week, just so you listening can get a feel for it?
Sure. They gave an example. Day 1 might be practicing your self-introduction, but focusing on, the tone sounding natural, confident.
Okay, not just the words.
Right. Day 2 could be small talk. Things like weather, hobbies, weekend plans, how to navigate those little chats.
The essentials.
Day 3 is maybe a mindset tip for confidence. Day 4, practicing storytelling, short personal anecdotes. Day 5 could be role-playing, like ordering a coffee.
Oh, practical stuff.
Yeah. Day 6, a listening challenge. Listen and repeat, trying to match the rhythm, the pronunciation. And Day 7 is like a review, and then maybe simulating a slightly longer conversation.
That's actually really well-rounded. It's mixing different skills, applying them, and keeping that confidence piece in mind.
Yeah, it seems very practical. Less about abstract rules, more about actual use.
And they share a story, right, about a student, Raj, to kind of illustrate how this habit thing works.
Yes, the Raj story, it really highlights the point. So Raj is 28, smart guy, works hard, but he felt his English was just terrible. That's the word he used.
Mm-hmm. I think many people can relate to that feeling.
Totally. He was apparently scared to speak up in work meetings, avoided talking to foreigners, that kind of thing. Just really insecure, even though he probably knew a lot.
Yeah, that gap between knowing about the language and actually using it. So what did they get him to do? What was the big change?
Well, this is the interesting part. It wasn't some massive overhaul. It was simple. Just 15 minutes of focused practice.
Every single day.
15 minutes.
That's it.
That's what they said. Not hours cramming. Just a short, dedicated burst of, active practice.
Yeah.
Like a little language workout.
Okay. 15 minutes daily for 30 days. What happened? Was he suddenly, perfectly fluent?
Well, they're realistic. They say he wasn't perfect. No magic wand. But he apparently became fluent in their definition.
Meaning?
Meaning he could think more easily in English, he could get his ideas across clearly, and crucially, he spoke with confidence. He wasn't stumbling or freezing up like before.
Wow, so the takeaway isn't becoming flawless, but becoming functional and confident through that habit.
Exactly. Fluency is a habit you build, not some innate talent you either have or don't. It's about that consistent, manageable effort, like exercise, right? Little bits often add up more than huge sessions once in a blue moon.
That's a really powerful message. It really takes the pressure off. Okay, so the SpeakUp Sessions podcast had this day 1 challenge for their listeners related to speaking practice. How can we adapt that for you listening to us right now? You might be focused on, understanding history or science, not necessarily speaking English.
That's a great point. We can't adapt the principle, which is about immediate focused intention. So maybe your adapted day 1 challenge isn't speaking, but thinking.
Okay.
Take just a few minutes today, seriously, 5 minutes, and really ask yourself, why am I interested in learning more about whatever your topic is? What do I actually want to get out of this? What's my goal?
Defining the why.
Exactly. Maybe jot down 1 or 2 quick thoughts. It's about setting that clear intention. Just like they asked language learners to set an intention for speaking, you set an intention for your learning. It fuels the whole process.
That makes a lot of sense. Just knowing why you're putting in the effort can be huge for motivation. And let's face it, motivation can be tough. Sometimes you just feel lazy or you want to put it off. The podcast mentioned this too, right?
Oh, yeah. They address it head on.
Yeah.
That feeling of procrastination or just not feeling up to it, it's normal, isn't it? Happens with any new routine you try to build.
Definitely. So what's their advice for pushing through that?
The core message is the power of those small, consistent steps again. Even on a day you feel zero motivation, doing something even just 5 or 10 minutes is way better than doing nothing. It keeps the habit alive.
I maintain the chain.
Right. And they also shared some motivational affirmations, things the language learner could say.
What were they?
Things like, I am becoming fluent. I speak with confidence. And I show up every day. Just short, positive self-talk phrases.
And you listening could easily adapt those, couldn't you?
Absolutely. Instead of I am becoming fluent, maybe it's I am expanding my understanding, or I enjoy learning new things, or I can figure out complex ideas. I engage with information regularly, whatever fits your goals. It's about reinforcing that commitment internally.
Exactly. That positive framing can make a difference.
Okay, so this has been really interesting digging into their approach.
Mm-hmm.
If someone listening is specifically working on their English and thinks this 30-day plan sounds useful, how can they find out more?
Yeah, if that structured daily practice approach appeals to you for language learning, the original podcast episode mentioned that you can get the full plan, the daily audio, the PDF challenges, the speaking prompts by following the SpeakUp Sessions English Podcast and looking for the link in their episode description.
Gotcha. So the resources are there if English fluency is your specific goal.
Mm-hmm.
So wrapping this up, if we distill the main insight from this SpeakUp Sessions episode, it feels like it's less about some magic 30-day language trick.
Right, much less about that. And much more about this broader principle that real progress, whether it's language or any kind of knowledge or skill, often comes down to, well, habits. Consistent, daily, focused practice.
Yeah, it's built through that regularity, not necessarily through like genius moments or massive, overwhelming study blocks. It makes learning feel more integrated into life, maybe.
Yeah, more manageable, more actionable. Which leads us to a final thought for you. Building on that idea from Raja's story, just 15 minutes of focused daily effort leading to real change.
Mm-hmm.
What's one tiny consistent action you could start doing, maybe even today, related to your own learning goals, whatever they might be, just 15 minutes? What could that look like for you?
Something small, but regular. Just let that question bounce around in your head a bit. It's always about that next small step, isn't it? Keep exploring, keep learning.